Well, Flames fans, what do you think? We had a couple of weeks worth of some doom and gloom, a couple of weeks worth of life is good. We lost a couple of star players. We gained a couple of star players, one of which he'd probably never sign with the Flames. Oh, but he did. And we're going to talk about it. Thanks for watching ArmChair GM Podcast. We'll be right back. Well, Jonathan Huberdeau, it's a Flame forever, or at least the next 8 years. What do you think about that contract, Dylan?
I think there's positives and negatives to it. I'm really excited for the next probably 5 years, and I think that there's an argument to be said that he's a better player than the guy he'd be replacing. That said, the last couple years could be pretty rough, but playmakers can age pretty well. Like, not saying he's anything like this, but like if you look at a guy like Marty St. Louis, he was retired at 39 and was an absolute beast until that day, and probably still to this day. Some guys regress hard after their 34th birthday. Some guys don't, but I think the way that the cap is going, I think that 10.5 is a very good deal. Maybe not this year and next year, but in the near future, as the cap goes up, I really think that 10.5 is going to age well, and I do think that Huberdeau can probably make most of the contract look very good, and I think that's what you got to do in order to have guys stay. You have to sign them longer term, and you have to sign them to a little bit more than you'd be comfortable in order to get them at all. So I'm not upset. What about you?
I agree with that 100%. Obviously, you and I talked about it long before the signing happened, on what we expected or not expected, but what we wanted. And I think you were on board as well as I. I think we're in agreement on 5, 6 at most. Just based on age, right? Because he's going to be 30 when the contract kicks in.
Yeah.
So and that's what we're talking about is the age of the player when that contract expires. And I don't know, when I first heard about the contract, my first thought was, oh, for fuck's sake, Brad, right? With that 8th year, I thought I'm just like, we're going to pay a 38-year-old $10.5 million. But then I kind of sat back and kind of thought about it a little bit. And you're right. Cap is going to go up in that time. He's not exactly a physical dominating beast. So, his body in theory should still continue to be
last a little longer.
Should exactly. Even if it's his last year, he starts to, decline, whatever, at that time we'll deal with it. But one of the things that I truly believe is if you want to get elite players to sign with your franchise, you have to give them that kind of contract. It has to be done.
You have to give them the extra little bump. And one thing that Huberdeau said in his interview too, believe the morning after he signed, was it sounds to me like he really is completely hands off with the whole business side of it. It sounds to me like he basically just told his agent, like, these guys want me, so sure, you do the rest. And then he let his agent do the rest. Therefore, his agent got the best deal for him, and for him, like, for the player and for the agent, which is obviously going to be as long and as much as possible. So and I kind of respect that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would probably do a little bit more of a put my hand into a little bit more to make it maybe easier for the team to win with me around. But that's me, right? And if he's gonna go and let his agent do all the work, and like we all know, Alan Walsh is a pretty damn good agent.
He's a
Um,
bulldog. Yeah, he's a
yeah.
bulldog for sure.
So hey, we got the player. And one thing I want to say too is I think if you look at that contract, the first 4 years of it, if like especially the first 2 years of it, is kind of where our window is right now, anyways.
Right.
Right. That's the way I look at it, anyways. We have, you know, 3/4 of the blue line, I think, and a whole bunch of the forwards, you know, coming off, including, you know, Backlund and Lindholm and Anderson and Hannafin and blah 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 blah, all coming off in the next couple of years, coming off the books, right? And I feel like we have the bona fide superstar, even maybe to have to convince some of those guys to sign longer. And if they don't want to, then we have the bona fide superstar in order to um really contend while those guys are still here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. You know, when you bring in somebody of Huberdeau's ability and his following, like he's an elite player, and
Absolutely, and he always has been,
and he will attract others. I truly believe there will be people that would like to play with him. Um, you know, I'm sure Lindholm is just super excited.
Yep.
Right. You know, and I've been saying it for a couple of weeks now that I truly believe that Huberdeau is just a better Gaudreau. You know what I mean?
I
Like
think they're different, but they're very close.
they are different, right? But you know, I'm much more of a 200 foot player guy myself, somebody that doesn't mind getting dirty. But we all know that Huberdeau is an elite playmaker and passer,
Yeah.
and but can also go digging for the puck and make the play happen, which is, you know, I think it's going to be refreshing for most Flames fans that have been bitching about Gaudreau
Yeah.
not
And
not performing on that side of things.
I agree. And I do think that Gaudreau got a lot better at it in the last
Agreed.
2 years or so, year and a
Yeah.
half.
Agreed. Yeah.
And he did get way better at it. But one
Mhm.
thing that I don't think you'd ever hear out of Gaudreau's mouth is what Huberdeau said to his coach last year, which is, "Put me on the PK. I want to be better on the PK. I want to be better defensively."
Yeah.
And he's started to get better. And you know, a guy like that is going to make Sutter really fucking happy.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's going to be growing pains with that because I don't think Huberdeau is quite as good two-way as people might think he is.
Yeah, he's
I
not
think
a
a lot of that
Backlund
is Barkov, but
or Lindholm. He's not that, but
yeah.
I mean, he puts in a lot of effort to try and be it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And
He tries a lot harder. Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's really all we want.
Mm-hmm.
At least make it look like you're trying.
Honest effort.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the other things that, you know, kind of surprised me in one of his interviews after the contract was how upbeat he is. He's, you know, he's like, you know, Florida didn't want me. They traded me away. Calgary wanted me. They traded for me. And all I've heard is how much they want me to play and how excited they are to have me. So I felt that it was the least I can do to just join them for the long term. And I'm just like, that just blows me away. Like he hasn't even been to Calgary yet, other than, you know, previous seasons, obviously. You know, he hasn't sat in on a Sutter practice, which, I mean, holy shit, like I think that would change a person's mind on whether or not they want to play for the Flames at all. And so it kind of blows me away that he's just throwing all that caution to the wind and saying, you know what, I'm dedicated. Here we go, and I'm doing my thing. And quite frankly, I love it. I think it's great.
I like, fuck, man. I've been talking about it online a lot, but like for myself, like I've been talking about it before, even before the contract was signed.
Mhm.
But like for myself, if I had a new opportunity with a new job, or an opportunity to transfer, even if it was a bit of a raise or whatever, I would want to go to that place. I would want to get to know, maybe not get to know the city like really, really well, but like get to know the general area of the city um a little bit, and get to maybe meet a couple of my teammates. Like, the only guy he knows is Markstrom. So
Yeah.
I think the fact that he was willing to go out and tell his agent to basically sign long term here because that they want me, I think
Yeah.
that shows a lot of you know I think part of it is that he didn't want to be moved around again, and he didn't want to move again, and he didn't want to be somewhere for just 1 year. And
Yeah.
I think it just shows a lot of like he knows what he wants in his life, even if it whether it's in a place he wants it to be or not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's a good point, right? Like he's really playing it properly, and I'm sure he's gaining a lot of Flames fans over the last couple of days, right?
Yeah.
Just the way he's approaching this whole thing, because I mean, I was kind of standoffish because he seemed super, but I'm sure it was just shock, right? He was drafted by a team. He gave his heart and soul to a team. They were going to show him, give him the C, and then didn't, right? They
Yeah.
I can't, and so they stepped over him on that, and then they traded him away, as they're officially trying to do negotiations for an extension, and everything just seemed out of left field for him. So I'm sure the way he's feeling about Florida right now is probably how half the players that have been um, tossed aside from Vegas, right? Like,
Kind of, right? It kind of feels like that. Like he's gone and helped build that team into what it is, and
yeah,
like he took guys like Bennett and Duclair under his wing and
yeah,
made played with them and made them into much better players, and
yeah,
gave them career years, and then he's just been told to, you know I
yeah,
get it because Kachuk's younger, and like I'm a huge Kachuk fan, but
yeah. Oh yeah,
it's anyways.
yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I'm excited about him being here long term. I really am. Those last
Me
couple
too.
of years, we'll see. The one thing that I'm not a fan of that Brad keeps sprinkling into all of his contracts in the last couple of years, at least his big ones, is his no moves and his no moves and his modified no trades and all that fun stuff.
I think
So
you have to do that now. Like there's so many teams now that that's all they do, because that's how you have to do it, right? Like
yeah,
that's the only reason we got Markstrom is because the extra year and the no move.
well, yeah, that's true, right? Like
Otherwise, he'd be an Oiler.
like like the extra the no move and all that fun stuff from Markstrom, and I get that, but he was a free agent, right? So it's
Yeah,
different. Where being an extension with Huberdeau, and given the situation, I bet you that was one of the big things that
for
attracted
Huberdeau.
him. Yeah, because he was just shafted, right, and traded. So I mean, a full no move clause for the first 6 years, and then the last 2 years he's got a modified no trade, where he submits a 12 team list that he's willing to be traded to.
Yeah, which
So
is quite a large amount of teams. I think that's a third, over a third of the league. So
yeah, it's not nearly as good as the majority of the modified no trades that we see, where you submit an 8 team no trade.
yeah,
But that's fine. At least it gives us options for the last two. I would imagine that Montreal will be on there, right? So Zeddy can retire in his hometown, and
or
and
wherever.
and whoever's looking like a true Stanley Cup juggernaut / contender, right?
Yeah, like who knows? Maybe you know, maybe we've won, or maybe there's a team that he thinks he's the last piece for, and they think they're the last piece for, and we can get a
Yeah.
huge haul for him in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Who knows? But he's given us, the riskiest time. He's given us an option to move him,
Yeah.
and that's really good. Like,
That is good, right? That's his third, his year when he's 37 and 38, which are the,
yeah.
Obviously the years of concern.
Yeah, and I'm honestly kind of surprised he did that because of what just happened. He just came off of his deal with technically his last contract with Florida is still active.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is I believe he had a full no move clause for all of it except for the last year, and then in the first like 2 weeks of him having a modified no trade clause, he gets traded.
Yeah,
even though he's 29 and a bona fide superstar.
Yeah,
right?
and at the peak of his career, right?
So I'm surprised he gave us that again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I before we move on, I just want to note that I really love where your head's at, where you say, by then maybe we've won a cup. You know what, Dylan? I love that.
Well, I think that's what we all want, right? And I do think Huberdeau, the addition of Huberdeau, helps us with that.
Yeah. Now the thing for Brad to figure out is, who do we put on the right side of that line? Whether it be via trade, whether it be, it's not going to be in the room personally. We can throw somebody there. I just don't think it would be the step that's going to elevate us to the next.
I don't think would be ideal to replace basically, your Kachuk, who was on the right wing, with
anybody on our roster. Anybody currently.
Somebody was saying Coleman, and I'm just like, Coleman's a third liner who can play.
I was going to say, like, could you imagine, right? So Coleman goes from third line in Tampa, comes to Calgary, gets put on the second line. Then we trade our first line, so we bump him to the first. I don't think that's how that works.
Yeah, no.
I hope that's not how that works.
So here's an interesting option, and kind of takes us to our next topic, which is Andrew Mangiapane. I know a lot of people want to see him put on the first line. I personally don't think he's a first line player, but what do you think of the contract? 5.8 million times 3 avoids arbitration, which I think is important. But what do you think?
Well, speaking of third line,
right,
Andrew Mangiapane, the bread man, who was brilliant playing on the third line last year.
Yeah.
Notching just a ton of goals right up until he got promoted in first week, second week of December.
Yeah,
where he fell off the high horse or the mountain or the fall from grace, whatever you want to call it.
Edge of the world.
Yeah, and was just absolutely dog shit until May. Well, end of May, right up and through in time when we weren't playing anymore. Anyways. 5.8 for three years. We're talking about a player that has tried to hold out the best he could for 1 year terms. He won't do the long term because he thinks he's always on a prove me season, and then he feels that he finally got his prove me season. In my eyes, he didn't. 5.8. That's
he had a prove me month.
He was brilliant for 2 months. Brilliant for 2.
Absolutely.
5.8 is, in my eyes, 1.5, almost 2 million too much.
Yeah, and you see, I think it's an overpay as well. I don't think it's as much of an overpay as you do. I think it's about a $1.3 million overpay. I probably would have been okay with 5, but not happy. And I probably would have been pretty pumped if it was at 4.5. So in between the 4.5 to 5 million range, I would have been happy. Mm-hmm. And I know some people online have been saying, like, so you're freaking out over 800,000. And I'm like, that's another player
In the
So
salary
yeah,
cap era, 800,000 means potentially not
yeah.
signing a player.
And my big
Um,
thing is he scored, and I know you just alluded to it, but he scored so many of those goals from the third line, playing against, in theory, for most of it, playing against other teams' second, third, and fourth best lines,
yeah,
not the opponent's best defensive lines, which is what your first line is supposed to do, right? And then once he got promoted to the second line, he fell off the face of the earth,
yeah.
which is,
Which
it could very well, in his defense, it could very well just be something that happened last year. Maybe that's his progression curve, right? Where he, came into the
yeah,
league on the fourth line, kind of lit it up there, and then has been slowly progressing to the point now where he's putting up second line numbers on a third line, and then hopefully he can um, transfer that production onto the second line next year,
right,
playing against better players, and then I'll be okay with the contract if he's making second line money and able to actually produce on the line he's being paid to play on,
right.
which I don't think he is yet. But again, he could, right? And
Yeah.
I know we both hope to God that he does.
Oh yeah. No, I mean,
Right?
obviously, I hope that he can prove me wrong. I really do. This will be his fifth, essentially full time NHL stint. Um, but like I said, I honestly think, and that's why I think I kind of said the same thing about the guy we're going to talk about next. Is his last contract was 2.45, sorry, 2.425. Um, you know, add another mill on that. Give him 3.5. Even a 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, and and let's get moving. Right, give him a raise because obviously he produced more, so he deserves a raise. I get that. Um, but it's that consistency that really got me. Is the first 2 months he was brilliant. After that, if he's not scoring, he's effectively useless because he does not drive the play. He cannot go in the corner and come away with the puck.
He
He
gets
he,
knocked over
he
easy.
gets
Yeah.
knocked over easily. He falls over on his own in the neutral zone for no reason.
Yeah.
He's not great defending coming back. So I mean, I'm still trying to figure out where 5.8 comes
I
from.
think he's getting better at the coming back and defending because he does use his speed. But the thing is a lot of the good things he does is completely overshadowed in my eyes by that one point you made where he falls over. And it's not like if he was getting knocked over, I'd be less, I'd be more okay with it.
Yeah,
Whereas the fall and Shillington too, like the whole falling over thing. Um,
yeah,
all players fall over. I fall over walking down the street because I'm clumsy as fuck, but I'm not being paid $5.8 million. Um, right, and
yeah. I mean,
they fall over on their own. That's my biggest thing.
the falling over on their own to me is a huge concern from both players, right? Shillington and Mangiapane. And I mean,
Mhm.
I believe you feel the same way. I can count two games that we lost to Dallas because of Shillington just falling over, like a direct result, right?
Um, I don't. I like. I'm not gonna put the entire like losing the entire game on it.
No,
Now the game losing play, yes.
yes, you're right.
Including that one, was it game two or three? Game two, I think, that we went to, obviously because game three was in Dallas. So the game two that we went to, we lost. I mean, we didn't score that game,
Right.
but you
That's
and I
that's a big thing.
both saw Shillington keeled over in our own in the offensive end, or I believe in the um
It's
in the
just
back, 100 feet either way.
yeah.
He was keeled over and he had fallen over again, and the puck was in our net and we had lost.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. And again, it happens sometimes to the best players in the league, but that shit happens a lot. And I
It
think
it shouldn't happen 1 to 3 times a game.
no, like
Right?
like being knocked over should happen probably 5-6 times a game, but
Yeah.
falling over, like because a gust of wind happened, or because somebody blew a horn in the freaking uh in the audience or the crowd or whatever, or because the wave happened or whatever, like
I,
the
I'm
wave blew him over, like, yeah,
I'm
that
I'm
shouldn't
really
happen.
I'm really surprised that we haven't seen a Shillington montage of him falling over, which is phantom things being photoshopped onto the ice.
Mhm.
Just things for him to trip on or fall over on.
Right.
Just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
So speaking of Oliver, he got himself a nice little pay raise. Um, it's more than I would have given him, but it's only 2 years at 2.5. He's coming off of you know just shy of an entry level, I guess. What do you call it? It was 750,000. I think I said to you that what I truly think he should get is double his wage. Give him the 1.5
Yeah.
by 2 years. Brad gave him the extra year, which is it's whatever. Shillington isn't making or breaking, but I think it kind of puts us in a position to be able to trade him.
So that's one thing I really like about that contract. First of all, I think you and I differ a little bit on this one.
Mhm.
Um, I was terrified that he was going to go to arbitration, because I truly think that they would have looked at his last season, and even though it was only the first half that he was even fucking useful, to be honest. I was really worried that they were going to give him 3.5 to 4.
Jesus, you imagine.
Yeah. And I'm so that one I'm really happy didn't go to arbitration. Um Actually, I'm probably happy that Mangiapane didn't go to arbitration too. I think that's such a weird thing to do. Like, you bring people into a courtroom or whatever the room is, and you're like,
Mm.
hey, so I think I'm worth this much. And then your boss comes in and says, well, I want you to sign long term, but you're fucking horrible. You're taking less, right? Like,
I'm pretty, in full
that's awkward.
disclosure, I don't think that's how the conversation goes. Um, I'm sure they bring comparables, right? And if all they're bringing for comparables is one season, then they deserve to get bent over and taken for a ride.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Shillington for a career. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, for as far as I'm concerned, over his career, he's worth 1 million. I'm giving him that 0.5 because of the season he had,
Yeah.
and because I'm a Flames fan, and I want to have the ability to trade him away.
Yeah.
Same with Andrew Mangiapane. Like, what do you think he would have got in arbitration? I think 4.5.
I think he probably would have got around where he is. I think that's probably right where he would have landed, maybe even more. Like, he's fairly comparable, I think, to Fiala, who got like 7 or something, 7.8, I think. I can't
Really?
remember. It was a couple months ago. But either way, with
Wow.
Shillington, I'm not really too um I'm not too upset with the contract. I'm not a huge Shillington. Um, like, I've always thought that he should get more of an opportunity, and I'm happy that he did. And now I've seen a full season of Shillington, and I'm kind of like, he's got that offensive upside, but the the downside is that he falls over and takes a little bit too many risks, and it's scary. But I think you know 2 and a bit is probably okay for him. Whereas
Mhm.
again, I was terrified he was going to make 3 to 4, and it was just terrifying to me. So I'm
Yeah.
happy he didn't, and I'm happy that that we've got him at what to me is like a pretty decent, fifth defenseman wage.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. I'm surprised that you compare Mangiapane to Fiala because of the the games difference and the point difference, quite frankly. Like they're not even close. Right. You got Andrews played 260 with 132 points, where Fiala's played 419 with 283. I think, like if you look at the last 4 years of Fiala, 215 games and 186 points. Sorry, that's not Mangiapane.
That's not bad. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think he's worth what he got either. Even with those numbers, I don't think he's worth what he got.
I don't necessarily think so either, but that's what I'm saying is I don't think he's worth that, but I also don't think that you can compare Mangiapane to him. Mangiapane was a flash in the pan for 1 season. Sorry, for 2 months of 1 season, and 5.8. I'm sorry, Brad, you fucked up.
I'm not happy about the contract with him.
That's a terrible contract.
Yeah,
and
like
and
I
to
said,
give
I
him
think
3 years of it, right? Like and gets him right into UFA. And quite frankly, I hope Brad can trade him before that, because unless Andrew improves greatly, I don't want to see more of him, because he's going to want more money. And so I don't know.
I mean,
that's the one signing that Brad has done this year that really kind of pisses me off.
Yeah, I think you've been a little bit quieter about it than I have on the Facebook and stuff, but I've been fucking practically crucified for saying I don't think Mangiapane's, as a guy who basically can only produce when he's on the third line, making $5.8 million isn't good.
Well, what did I say there? Now our third line now, as it sits currently, with in my eyes, with Mangiapane, Monahan, and Dubé, like we're just shy of 15 mil on a third line. Not bad.
Yeah.
Money well spent, right?
Right. Now, I'm done expecting, and I haven't expected it for a couple of years now, with Monahan to come out. If he does, that's fantastic, and that'll solve so many problems. But I'm not expecting it, and Dubé, I think, still has a little bit left to, he's not going to progress to being a first liner, but I think he's got second line potential, and I think that Mangiapane has second line potential, but he's not a second liner, and he's been paid second liner money as a guy with second line potential. That's just my thought on it. Now his numbers are second line numbers approximately, but he never can do that given second line minutes, and that's scary.
Like sorry, I'll okay. This is where I'm gonna have to disagree with you 100%. His goals,
yes,
are second line numbers.
Yeah, no, I agree.
His points are not.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, and I don't think it's because he's selfish that he doesn't pass. I think it's like as much, nearly as much as anybody else.
You've seen him try, right? It's not that he can't. Sorry, it's not that he won't. Like he's terrible at it. He has zero aim on a great
passer, and he doesn't. How can I say it? Like, I think he gets overly excited when he gets the puck in the offensive zone, because he knows he can score, which is fine. But we've spent however many years yelling at our best players to shoot the puck more, so that's fine. But you got to be able to decipher when to pass, and especially as a guy who's slightly under league average size, and
Yeah.
as a guy who falls over, like you got to be able to get the puck to your teammate before you get knocked over, and he doesn't do that, right?
No, exactly. And I mean, I'll buy the excited mantra for the 17-18/18-19 seasons, but at some point, like, you're an NHLer. You need to just quit with the giddiness and just play the goddamn game. Like, if you're still that excited after 5 seasons, maybe just watch a few games. Like it's just, I'm sorry. Like
I don't think he's really a press box candidate, but I think he's more.
I'm saying just hang him up. If you're still that giddy and excitable after 5 seasons, you shouldn't be on the ice at all.
Yeah. If you
pretend like you fucking have been there before and be a goddamn professional.
Yeah.
Start making plays. Period.
Yeah.
like his career high in assists was this year, to which he had 20 in 82 games.
Yeah.
In 82 games as a second liner, right? This is where we're talking about.
You do need players who get more goals than assists, but that's a lot more goals than assists, and a lot of his assists come from falling over in the puck. Thank God hit one of our guys' sticks when he fell over, or something like that.
That's right, 100%. Yeah, if we have players that are scoring more goals than assists, I get that, but those goals better be more.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like he was on pace for getting 70 goals this year.
I think he was on after halfway through, roughly halfway through the season. I think he had kind of just stopped his hot streak or whatever, and they were saying he was on page for between 50 and 55, and everybody knew that wasn't realistic for him to keep. Even the most optimistic of fans, I think, didn't think that was a really realistic thing for him to stay at. But the other thing that should be a realistic expectation is to not fall off if you have a cold spell, that's fine, but if you have a cold spell that's 4 months long, that's not fine.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got half December to January, February, March, April, May. When was our last game? End of May?
June, I think.
Was it June? Okay.
Could have been.
Yeah, I can't remember because you're right. The playoffs were pushed back a couple of weeks this year.
Yeah.
So that's 6 months of a cold spell. Really. Like he peppered in 6 goals, 7 goals in that time.
Yeah, which is, obviously way better than none. And if he didn't score, 27 goals in the first 2 months of the season, then we may not have been as good in the standings as we were to begin, right? So sure. It's good, but it's also well,
that's just it. We're talking about contracts, and I can't fathom how Brad could possibly justify 5.8.
Yeah. So we want you guys in the comments section down below to let us know what you think about Andrew Mangiapane's contract, especially because that seems to be the one that we're most deliberated on, and same with the other two guys contracts, because as much as we are pretty happy with Huberdeau, and I think we have differing opinions on Kylington. Neither of us are too upset about that. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section.
Absolutely, and if you're filling up to it, I would really like to hear what your idea or concept is on a potential Mackenzie Weegar extension could possibly be. I'm very intrigued by this player. I'm excited to have him on the team. I think him and Tanev are going to be a phenomenal pairing if that's how that plays out. So yeah, comment on that. I want to hear what your ideas and your concepts are as far as term and dollar value and all that fun stuff. So yeah, make sure you're keeping us informed so we can look at it. I might laugh at it. I might agree with it. We don't know. We'll see.
So what do you think about that? What's your thought on the whole Uyghur situation? I mean, I'm pretty sure he's next, and it probably won't be too far down the road. But
Yeah, I agree. So I mean, he's just he has one more year on his 3.25,
which is a criminal underpayment.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Speaking of somebody that should be on a 5.8 currently, and that would, in my opinion, still be a steal.
Raise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly think if we can get Mackenzie nailed down at $7 million times 6 seasons, I would be extremely happy at that.
Me too.
I don't know that that's what it's going to take, but that would make me happy.
You said 7 times 6?
Yeah.
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 I'm pretty close to you there. I think, again, this one's a little bit harder for me to judge because I've, even obviously before the Huberdeau contract came out, there's a lot more direct comparisons and you see a lot more Huberdeau plays throughout the years than you've seen Uyghur plays throughout the years. Whether it's watching games or watching highlights or whatever. But so I haven't spent a whole lot of time watching Uyghur. I've kind of been on a lot of Florida Panthers threads and pages lately, asking them what they think. And a lot of fans seem to think that he's really good until it matters, and then he's not so good, which is kind of scary. But
so it sounds to me like there's some fans that are upset because they lost and trying to throw blame at somebody. I think if you talk to if you're on Facebook talking to a fan base, I mean it's a grain of salt, right? Grain of salt.
Oh, 100%. With our fan base too, right? With any fan base.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I think you're fucking stupid, Chris.
Yeah, well,
that's why we agree on so many things.
That's right.
Anyways, honestly, I kind of looked into it a little bit. And again, it's hard because I haven't looked at a whole bunch of Uyghur's plays and really I find with defensemen it's a lot more important to be looking at the entire play start to finish than it is just the goal that happened or the defensive thing that happened, right? But just spitballing, I'm thinking you're pretty spot on. I was probably going to go like more 7.25, 7.5, and I doubt that he would want a 6-year contract. That would be great, but that one's probably going to be 7 or 8 too.
I mean, you're probably right. I mean, he's almost 29.
Yeah.
So again,
this will be his last money deal, right?
This will be his last money deal. So, I mean, he'll be almost 30 when the contract starts, and then that's when it gets into the scary part for me. Uyghur plays more body, obviously, and more physical than Huberdeau does, because he is more of a defensive defenseman, right?
Yeah, I think he's more of a tan of like not the rocking hits, but the bodying guys off the puck.
Exactly. Really, really good positional plays and good stick and just being in the right spot. And this is I'm gonna say one thing because I have been talking to a lot of Panthers fans as well and asking what their opinion of and of Uyghur is and what they think of him as a player, and every single one of them says he's a dynamic offensive defenseman. So looking at that in his career of 306 games, he has a total of 121 points, 27 which are goals. Offensive defensemen aren't like that, which is fine. And yeah, but one thing that does stand out to me is his plus minus as a career at 77, plus 77.
Yeah, and to me,
on a team that's not super defensive, right?
Yeah, the team.
Florida is a score goals team. So and one thing, and I know I talked to you about it just quickly in passing like a week ago. He is 100% in the faceoff dot.
Oh, he took a faceoff.
One of them, and he won it.
Oh, that's funny. So from what I understand, and even the guys, on the panel and stuff like that, when they're, whether it be TSN or Sportsnet or whatever it is, when they're kind of talking about Uyghur, one thing I've heard a lot, and it's not so much the dynamic offense that you might see from, prime Erik Karlsson or something like that.
It's funny you said that, because I was going to say Karlsson of 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, before his ankle twisted and never came back. But what I hear about Uyghur a lot is the transitional game. So getting the puck up the ice from the defensive zone, which gets you points, gets you assists, but is also critical to the power play. So that's why I think he might be a good power play defenseman, because even though he's more defensively tuned, for the most part, I think that one thing that the team has had problems with in the past is getting the puck from the defensive zone to the offensive zone without getting it intercepted or getting somebody poking it through, or just straight up losing the puck or passing it backwards and missing by a mile and having it go behind the goalie or something.
Absolutely. I agree. That's one of the things that the Flames have kind of struggled at for a number of seasons
since Brody, I think.
Yeah, 100%. This is the breakout pass. And you're right. Brody was a master at it. Quietly went about his business, did those things that people didn't recognize or notice or give him credit for. He was always just the guy that, on occasion, 1 out of every 10 games would fall down and let somebody go by or whatever. Yeah. There's so many good things to say about TJ Brody, and I'll defend the man for years to come.
I will too, because he was the whipping boy for many years on the blue line, and I don't think, maybe at the beginning of his career he deserved it a little bit, but as his career went on, I think people just kind of remembered what he was and not what he had become.
Yeah, and people for whatever reason in our fan base will always remember him for his time with Hamonic, where they put him on the other side of the ice that he hasn't been used to playing, and even though it's his natural side, they put him on his natural side, which he doesn't like being at, and that pairing just didn't work. But whatever.
Well, that's the whole thing, and
Glenn Goloffson wanted him to stay for a year and a half, right?
I think of all of Golutzin's blunders as a rookie coach, I believe at that point, the forcing of that, and I understand it because Hamonic's the offensive or the defensive guy, and Brody's the defensive guy, and they're opposite hands, and I understand that. But when something doesn't work for that long,
you have to recognize it
and change it, for Christ's sake.
Oh, the Brower play. The Brower play. We're going on the Brower play.
Yeah.
Why is Troy on the power play? Knock it off, Glenn.
I mean,
Anyways,
to be fair, there we didn't have any right wingers. So,
right.
but
Oh, right.
yeah.
Or centerman.
Oh, we had Monahan. Yeah. Who was standing in the slot, which is the only thing Brower could do. So
Right. Yeah.
then they were just like,
yeah. Two of them. Yeah. Just colliding in the slot.
yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Did you
So,
have anything else you want to plug in here, or
you know what? I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot of stuff here.
Treliving's been busy? It's been a really exciting week. For it's really added to the whole roller coaster off season for me, as far as the whole Gaudreau and Kachuk saga, and then the fan base being torn on if Huberdeau is going to sign, and then he finally does, and the roller
What?
coaster even of this week for me. Like, I was camping this week, and it all started off with Kylington signing and me being like, that's not bad, and then Mangiapane signing and me being like, oh fuck, that's gonna fuck us, and then Huberdeau signing and me being like, well, no, you got to give to get, I guess, or
Yeah.
yeah,
You gotta give to get. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I see what you did there. One last thing before we go. Do you think Brad did enough to keep his job?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to. I'm still. I'm. I still think it's time for somebody new. He's had 8 years. He's been 9 years, 8 or 9 years. He's been, he's had some great hits with the Lindholm Hannafin trade, and even the Kachuk trade. He's had some horrible misses.
Yeah.
Like, even the whole Gaudreau saga could have been handled better, where he was actually doing something the rest of the time instead of only concentrating on one thing. And
Yeah.
I just I don't hate him. I think he's always truly done things that on paper are best for the team, things within his control. But I just think it's time.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I feel like obviously 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, we were. I mean, I think if any of us saw Brad walking down Stephen Avenue Mall, he might get mugged.
Yeah,
Not no might about it. I think he would have been assaulted.
probably got a couple of those Boston Pizza um, coupons in his back pocket for whoever
Yeah,
manages to pull that one off.
yeah, like somebody would have just shoved a heart-shaped pizza right up his ass.
Yeah.
But I mean, given the trade that that happened, and I give Kachuk a little bit of credit on that. He at least came and came to terms with the situation, gave Brad the ability to make the trade, and it appears that Kachuk worked with Brad to make the trade happen. So I'm happy about that. Unlike what Gaudreau did, I do think Kachuk actually wanted to, I think, more save face than anything, because I don't think he truly gave a shit what he was doing to the Flames as a whole.
See, that's where I stand on it. Is I think everybody's giving Kachuk all this praise because he went out and made sure the Flames got something for him. That's not, in my opinion, that's not where Kachuk's head was at. Kachuk's head was at, I want the fuck out of here. I don't want to be here one more year, so I'm going to help him move me, not help him get something for me.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah, I agree. Like
it was greed. It wasn't like, here, we're going to give the fans something for me.
Yeah.
Where,
No, it was always about Matthew, without a doubt.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I want out of here. Here's my list. So Brad comes back and says, "What about Florida? They said they'll give you 8 years at whatever," and he goes, "Yes."
Yeah.
I think that's as far as that conversation went.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'll give Brad credit on most of the signings. Like I said, as you know, I don't like the Mangiapane one. I'm willing to live with it. It's only 3 years, and I think we still need a number one winger.
I do too.
So potentially, Shillington and Mangiapane might be part of a package. Who knows, right?
I wouldn't hold my breath on that one, but
I'm not either. I'm not either. I truly don't think Monahan's going to start the season, so I think we're going to see, Ruz come up and play that third line, and I think we're going to see the opportunity of a couple of our guys from the Wranglers, baby, which kicks ass.
yeah,
Um,
that's I
I'm
love that logo, by the
That's
way.
so sick. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I truly believe this is actually going to be the year that we get to see a couple of our guys come up and steal themselves a roster spot, because I think there's three for the taking this year.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to see whether they make the squad full time or not.
Yeah.
I was really pumped to see Mackey, but I don't think with how our roster
Yeah.
is, like there's no room for Stone. There's no room for any
That's
defenseman.
that's one of the reasons why I think that there's a trade still potentially coming, because I don't feel like there's room for the guys that we have signed, which is weird, right?
There isn't, and I do think that like I think it would be tough to trade a Zadorov or a Shillington who we just signed, or a Uyghur who we just got. So that leaves what, Tanev, Anderson, Hanovan.
I think Shillington at 2 years at 2.5, I think we could potentially be part of a.
I think you could move him. I don't think there's a chance that you couldn't move him. Teams like players like that, but and at a price like that, but under team control. I don't think that there's too much. I just think it looks bad on a GM to sign somebody and then let them go through the press of being like, hey, I'm happy to be back for a couple of years. I'm happy to get my raise, blah, 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 and then just get moved the next week. You know what I mean? I think that looks bad on a GM as far as bringing other players in, because then you sign a free agent and they're like, or you try and sign a free agent and they're like, well, this guy just trades people right after. So why would I sign there? Right?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, at some point, the business of the game also comes into play.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but I do agree with you. I think that there's a log jam there, and I think that in order to get the cap space, we would need to sign or trade for a top winger or even a top center, which people forget Lindholm is a very good top right winger as well. I think that gives us some flexibility in targets as far as who we can go after. But I do think that trading a defenseman, one of our defensemen plus something else is in the cards and probably likely in order to bring in that top winger.
Yeah, that's fair. With that being said, Dylan.
Yep.
I think we're gonna say goodnight to our beloved ArmChair GM podcast fans. Let them marinate, as the great Stephen King would say. We've had a good conversation about trades, potentials. We've had a good conversation about signings, the ones that Brad has done so far this year. Some great, mostly average. Yeah,
and I agree with you. I agree with you on the Mangiapane thing, where I don't think it's great right now. It has the potential to be okay. I don't think it has the potential to be great, but it could turn out okay, but where it's at right now doesn't look too hot.
For sure. I mean, and like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I hope this year, he advances to the next level. I really do.
Yeah,
And the main reason why I do is because that means the Flames are that much better,
absolutely.
and so I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
we're watching the ArmChair GM podcast. I believe this is episode 15. Kind of lost track.
yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm Chris. Dylan, coming from BC. Is it smoky there?
Not where I'm at, no, but
Good.
it's getting to be that season, man. It's
Yeah.
poor Lytton is just getting lit up yet again.
Yeah. My buddy Caribou Chris, who lives in kind of northern BC. There, I think there's like 8 forest fires around his property as we speak, which is just,
Oh, that's terrifying.
yeah. He's they're not living well up by the lake property that he's at.
No.
So Caribou, I hope everything's going okay with you and Deb, and hope things settle down for you.
Shout out to all those who are especially in the last few years here in BC, forest fires have been really bad. So shout out to all those who have been affected. It's been pretty rough out here.
100%. And then for the first responders trying to put it out.
Absolutely.
So,
Including my brother-in-law, by the way, who's
oh yeah,
forest fire. Yeah.
nice.
Forest
Attaboy.
firefighter. He's not a forest fire.
He's not a forest fire.
No.
It's probably better to fight them.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways,
all right, everybody.
cheers, guys.
Another show coming at you. Cheers, all. Have a good night.
Cheers.